Hi everyone.
Hello.
Right.
Hi, thanks for joining. Sorry, my computer's just letting people in, so I'll just wait a little moment while everyone comes in. But while that loads, just wanted to check in. How's everyone doing? If you look outside your window, what do you see? I know over here it's been really, really hot, which is great, but there's just nowhere to cool down. So we're just lucky in the office that we've got some aircon.
Where is your office? I'm on my way. It's too hot here.
We're we're based in Harefield, hey.
That's too far away,
Oh.
fortunately.
Okay, great. So while we let people come in, we can get started. So welcome to our workshop today, which is going to be around the mind and body connection.
He's away from his desk at the moment, so what I can do is I can email him and ask him to give you a call back. Is that okay, Michael?
Um,
All right, then. Take care then.
would it be
Bye.
possible for, if you're not on mute, to be put on mute? Sorry. Thanks. Okay, so before we get started, just wanted to start off with, to get a sense of who's in the room. So how many of you think more clearly after some kind of movement? So feel free to raise your hand up or write a comment in the chat. Comment. Great. And how many of you notice a difference in someone close to you when they're more active? Okay. And lastly, how many of you are not convinced that your body is affected by your mental health and like movement? Great. Thank you, everyone. So just as a reminder, this session will be recorded. So Tom, do you mind starting the recording? Thanks. And you'll get sent that recording at the end of hopefully by the end of the day or tomorrow. A little bit about us. So a little bit about who we are. So we're the Stress Management Society, which is a non-profit organization based in West London. And we've been helping people manage stress and build genuine well-being since 2003. And the International Wellbeing Insight is our research and consultancy arm. So these public webinars are one of the ways we try and make practical well-being knowledge accessible to everyone, regardless of budget and the background. So to help us, keep going with what we're doing, it would be useful if you find today's webinar useful to help us by donating in the, I think Tom will put a link in the chat, or you can scan the QR code. And just a reminder of how to use our workshops. So this is an interactive session, not a lecture. So please try and get involved as much as you can in any way that feels comfortable. So it might be typing in the chat, raising your hand, or speaking into the microphone. And you can ask questions at any point. Me and Tom will be more than happy to support and share your experiences with anything. And a reminder for anyone who hasn't been here before, or for those of you who have, so you're all here on time, which is great. Reminder to be here in the now, to try and keep an open mind, participate in a way that works for you, try and be honest and respectful, and refrain from using like general statements, to try and use I statements when you're referring to any experiences, and try and limit distractions where possible. So starting off, about why this topic matters. Why do you think movement and mental health are linked? Any ideas? Oh, sorry, Tom, I can't hear you. Yeah, so we've got a few in the chat. So yeah, that's a good point. So release of endorphins, releases feel-good hormones. That's all good. And what do you think gets in the way of being active? Oh, 1 second. I think I can't hear anyone. Okay, all good. Okay, great. Can you all hear me fine?
Yep. Can
Sometimes
you
we get
hear
some
us?
technical. Yeah, all good. Okay, yeah. So some great things in the comments as well. And what helps people move more, do you think? Tom, would you like to share any of the ones in the chat?
So people are very, very honest and open, which is great. You know, people talking about the things that are getting in the way being things like pain and stress and illness, you know, the hardships that we all have to face as the reality of being human beings. And looking at like what helps people move more, like motivation and support from others and community, goals, plans, achievements. It sounds like we've got some very motivated people in the chat today.
Amazing. Okay, so most people already know that movement can be good for us. And actually, the hardest part is making it happen in real life. And sometimes, for me personally, like sometimes barriers can actually be a real like big blocker, such as time, energy, money, confidence, even like specific access to places. And just not knowing where to start sometimes can be the hardest for it. So today isn't about saying try harder, but it's more about asking how can movement become easier and more realistic. So if we were to look at some of the stats, so the Mental Health Foundation asked UK adults about physical activity, and in 2024, they found that 82% of adults recognize that physical activity is important for mental health, and 37% of UK adults say that they can't find the time to be as active as they need to be. So what we can see here with these numbers is that it shows something very human. Most people know movement is important and it matters, but knowing something is good for us doesn't always make it easy to do. And I'm sure for me, that's something like affected me quite a bit. And so the gap isn't just about knowledge, and it's more about daily life. So I'm going to ask you one thing. So why do people know movement helps us but still struggle to do it? So why is it sometimes that we know something is good for us but we still don't do it? Yeah, busy lives, motivation, anxiety. Yeah, too many other demands. I think that's a really big one. Physical limitation. Yeah, not knowing how to go about it. I think that's really a big thing for me too. Tom, are you about to say something? Okay, great. Okay, so thinking about like what can a 30-minute walk do? So there's actually a lot of benefits behind it. And some research actually found that a 30-minute walk 3 times a week can be as helpful as antidepressants in some cases. So exercise has been linked to 42 to 60% reduction. So for example, in some mental health symptoms, or just 20 minutes of walking a day has been linked to lower odds of major depression. Now, these stats are powerful, but it's important to be clear that movement isn't a replacement for some medical care or therapy or medication if someone needs that support, but it can be just one helpful tool to help alongside other supports. And when we say walking, it doesn't have to be a fast walk. It can just be like a brisk walk through, around your neighborhood or inside your house. It can even be like simple chair-based movements or some stretching as well. So, quick question. Have you ever noticed your mood or energy changing after a walk or doing some kind of simple movement?
Yeah, we've got a lot of people agreeing. Yeah, a lot of people who really feel that difference in the chat.
Victoria, you've got your hand up.
I think that was just in agreement, Judy.
Okay. Okay, great. And so now looking at what does like being in nature do to the brain? So yes, walking is helpful, but there's also other things that we can do. So for example, just being outside in nature adds another layer. So for example, researchers found that a 90-minute walk in nature has been shown to reduce rumination. So for example, the habit of going over negative thoughts, it kind of reduces that overthinking, and also to calm your brain and reduce mental health risks. Also, 2 hours in the forest has been shown to reduce cortisol levels as well and your stress hormones. And it's also been shown to shift the brain outside that fight or flight response. And, I'm like, as we've seen in the comments, there's a lot of people that also found this to be helpful for them too. So like we said earlier, so nature doesn't have to be being in the forest or a big mountain. It could be in the local park, it could be in your garden, it could be a quiet street with trees, maybe sitting outside, maybe somewhere near the water, or just opening a window and noticing the sky. So there's different ways you can approach this and still will all have benefits. And not everyone has equal access to green spaces, so it's about using what's available and not creating another added pressure. So just take a moment to think and feel free to share, where do you feel calmer? Where's your calm spot that helps you kind of relax and wind down? Oh, open water swimming. That sounds like a good one. Sitting in the garden, walking the dog by the coast. Hearing the birds, that's always quite nice and peaceful.
A little anecdote about listening to birds in nature that I found out the other day, that apparently one of the reasons that we love to hear bird song in nature is because birds are very good at spotting predators and danger, and that when we can hear bird song, we know that the birds are calm and therefore our environment around us is calm. I really, really like that. It's just how much our nervous system is in tune with our environment.
I think listening to the beach, the waves on the beach, that's always a really good one too. Someone shared that in the comment. I've lost it. Nice. So stress isn't just in the mind, and often it shows up in the body. So you might notice sometimes stress shows up with your shoulders really tensed up, or your jaw being clenched, or sometimes you might have a heavy chest or shallow breathing, maybe a bit tiredness or restless. Other people, it might show up in their back or in their joints. And so the reason why movement can help is it gives the body a way to release some of that tension and basically relax after a long day. And it's like a way to kind of release that negative energy. So just take a moment to notice your body right now. Notice what your feet feel like. Are they tensed? Maybe notice your chest. Is it all tight? Notice how like sometimes your fist can be clenched without really noticing. So maybe relax that, give your fingers a little wave. Notice what your jaw's like. Maybe give it a little wiggle. Roll your shoulders. And while you're kind of noticing that, see where stress often shows up for you. So you can either share that in the chat or in the mics. Where do you often notice stress holds a lot of weight?
Yeah, do we have anybody brave enough to come on mic and tell us a little bit about where they feel their physical stress?
I don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, tummy is the big one for me. In fact, that's it. Kind of 5 or 6 years ago, I got very ill with stomach problems, which they couldn't diagnose. And I realised after a while that it was all down to 3 different lots of stress in my life. So I think I'm a complete convert to the mind-body connection, and gut is a thing that I think a lot of people, that my daughter's recently been told in her 20s she's got IBS, and I think that's probably stress related. And I've been looking up stats this morning, and there's like so many people that have that. So I think there's definitely movement, and releasing that stress is really important. And the other thing, I think, for those of us who sit at desks all day, I get like quite a bit of neck ache, arm pain from you're sort of constantly got your arm out on a mouse, or if you use a phone a lot. So I think those are kind of ones to watch for as well, I find.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you're completely right in just how much our guts are like a second brain. They've got a whole personality of their own, and they can react to stresses in the environment that our brain might not be listening into, and just how important it is to literally listen to your gut. You think this knowledge was embedded in our language quite a long time ago, and to just understand of like your gut is telling you that you're stressed. Let's have a think about what we can do about it. Yeah, it's a brilliant example. Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else like to share? Yeah, Karen.
I would also say stress affects me by my sleep patterns. And don't actually, I go to sleep like that, but throughout the night I will wake up, think of things, and I've always got a pen and paper next to my desk, no, I don't sleep on the job, next to my bed, to write the stuff down, so it comes out of my brain and then enables me to go back to sleep. But it's been known that I've woken up at 3, brain absolutely whizzing, and having to start my day at that time. So yeah, that affects me.
No, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a really, really important thing for us to think about, of like where our stress tries to bury and when it tries to come out, because sleep is one of those moments where our mind relaxes, our unconscious bubbles to the surface, and all of these things that we're worrying about, maybe we've had to suppress them during the day, they all bubble to our mind at once. So yeah, it can be really, really difficult and painful to have you're wearing your stress in your sleep.
Yep.
I think Jill's got a hand up. Sorry,
Oh, yeah,
I don't
Jill?
know if you've seen it yet.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to share. There's been a couple. I think those of us who are good managers of ourselves we hide. My experience has been I'm very good at hiding my stress and just carrying on as normal. And there are occasions in my life when I've been released from a stressful situation that's been going on for a long time. One was a relationship that had sort of like died and dwindled and didn't realize how stressed I was about it. And when I finally moved out of that situation, I was exhausted. I almost slept for 2 weeks. And then that's, like my body had been holding all that stress and I didn't know. I mean, I knew I was sort of stressed, but I wouldn't have been able to identify it in my body because I was just carrying on. And I had the same recently when I had a lot of responsibility for a short period of time, and then I was relieved of it. And the same thing happened. I sort of thought, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And so it gave me some insight into the fact that, that's using a hell of a lot of energy, kind of like containing that stress. Yeah. But identifying it in my body, I'm one of the gut people. Yeah, I get pain in my gut.
I think that's a very common one. Thanks for sharing that. We actually had a workshop for Stress Awareness Month around the gut brain health. And I think if you guys go on our YouTube, you'll be able to learn more about it over there. And if you have any questions, we can also link you with Mayota, who's doing that gut brain research. Yeah, anyone else want to share? Thomas, yeah, sorry, I can see someone. Helen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't settle. I find it very difficult. I can make a plan during the day and I find myself wandering from room to room because I can't find what I need, and then I get distracted. And I move on to something else and nothing ever gets finished.
Have you, I think that's, I find that sometimes when I've got so much to do and I'm really stressed, it's so hard to sit down and focus on one task. And you're like, yeah, I'll do this. And it's like all over the place. Have you found anything that's worked for you?
Well, I did used to walk every day before breakfast. And I know that settles me down. But it is about making decisions about things that may be stressful. I live alone. I'm older. I've got to make decisions. And I think part of it is putting off making those decisions.
It
and
sounds
that builds up the stress.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult position to be in, where one of the first things that's talked about in like the more analytic side of understanding our mind is that when we're trying to push away decisions, it's like you're constantly pushing. It's exhausting, and that energy has to go somewhere, and it means that you can get slightly distracted easily. It's really, really interesting to see how you're experiencing that in your day to day.
Yes, exactly.
No, thank you.
Thanks for sharing, everyone. And it takes us nicely to the next thing. So how does this kind of impact you? So what area do you think matters to you most right now? Stress, mood, sleep, or anxiety?
We've got some really interesting mixes, and yep, all four. Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of sleep. I think lots of people in the UK are starting to realize how much we're affected by it being incredibly warm overnight.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we've got quite a mix, a lot of sleep. So actually, movement gives the nervous system a different signal. And so when we're stressed, anxious, we can get stuck in our head. And so movement can kind of bring us back into the body. And it doesn't have to be like an intense movement for it to count. So for example, if you look at stress, basically it releases physical tension and uses up stress energy, and your body kind of was built to move under pressure and not stay still. So that's how movement can help you decrease that stress. And for example, with mood support, basically it supports that feel good chemical, and it helps give a sense of achievement even after a short period of movement. And for those of you with like struggling with sleep, actually moving regularly can improve sleep quality over time. And for many people, even a gentle activity. I know sometimes when I've been like really stressed out and then I'm not prioritizing physical activity, then my sleep kind of gets messed up. And as soon as I try and like prioritize some kind of physical activity, everything kind of falls into place. And then I notice my sleep has improved. And with anxiety, so that helps discharge that restlessness energy, which some of you have mentioned, and brings your attention back into the body and into the present moment. So have you guys ever used movement to help with any of these? And what does that look like for you? Tom, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, people are talking about some things I'm sure we'll get onto in a second about using yoga for stress, like being in a fun communal activity, dancing, walking, just getting outside of the house. There's a lot of just desire to be out and doing for people to help with things like stress and anxiety, which seem to be the main themes.
Great. I think dancing seems to be a really common one, which is great. So thinking about what counts as movement. So when we say movement or exercise, a lot of people think, oh, I need to go to the gym, or I need to run a 5K, or I need to do like a really intense cardio session. But basically, like movement can be any kind of form that's suitable for you in a way that works for you. So for example, it could be your traditional gym, yoga, swimming, but it can also be like a walk in the park. It could be playing with, if you've got grandkids or if you've got kids, playing hide and seek. It could be going shopping, so walking around the town, maybe running errands, standing, stretching. I know sometimes when I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, I'll do some stretches or just kind of dance while my food cooks. And that's worked for me. Yeah, so what movement do you already do that might not traditionally count as exercise? Anyone want to be brave and unmute? Dancing in the kitchen. Nice.
Yeah, I love the dancing in the kitchen, washing the dog, people doing their allotment and things like that. It's it's very, very important in our daily lives to like move in the little in-between spaces.
Yeah. Running around after your 3-year-old. I feel like that's one of the best ways to stay active. Parking at the far end. It's interesting you say that. I think there was something in I hope I'm not wrong with this, but like in Japan, where some people who arrive early tend to park really far away, and they try just to get that steps in and to move. That's a good way to do it. I need to start doing that.
Yeah, it's strange how our instinct can be driving around a car park multiple times, think, oh, can I get a spot a little bit closer, rather than just parking at the far end and walking, saving ourselves time and getting a little bit of exercise in. Yep, park on the roof of a multi-story. I see it coming. great.
Amazing. Okay, so some of you, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there are 4 ways to help yourself move. And there's a simple framework that can help with any habit, including movement. So we're going to go through the 4 main ideas. And as we go through them, I want you to think about what each one means to you and in your life. So starting with the first one, so making it obvious. So in simple, what that means is making movement easy to remember so you don't have to rely on motivation. So a lot of the time when when you put off doing exercise, it's because it takes so much willpower. Oh, I don't know what I'm meant to do, or I don't know where to start. There's so much brain power, and maybe after a long day at work, that's the last thing you want to have to think about, like planning an exercise routine. So a way to do it is make it obvious. So something I started to do now is I always pack some gym clothes and leave it in the car. Just so that's one less thing that I have to think about rather than go home and change and then have to leave again. Something else you could do is put trainers by the door. Maybe you could leave a yoga mat in the car, have a resistance band somewhere visible. In our office, we've got one of those walking treadmills. So yeah, so for example, one example could be every time I make my morning tea, I'll stretch for 2 minutes. Or every time I brush my teeth, I'll try to do some stretches or dance while you're waiting for that a few minutes to brush your teeth. Or maybe like during your lunch walks, go for a walk. So what daily routine could you attach a movement to? So think about what you do every day, and what do you think is one small thing you can add to help make it obvious to do some kind of physical activity? Hey, the crazier these are, the better, and probably more fun to do. Squat until the kettle boils. Nice. Don't dance in the shower. That's funny. Jog on the spot. Yeah. Wait, Tom, I can't hear you, but I don't know if that's me. Taking short breaks. Yeah. Seated exercises. Yeah.
There's a lot of British people in the chat that I can tell, because lots of people are talking about doing things while their kettle boils.
Oh, I like that. Standing on one leg while you brush your teeth.
Yeah, just the simplicity of standing on one leg is so important for developing all of your corrective postural muscles, keeping structure, because the moment they start to degrade, you can start to feel really scared and uncertain in how you go about your daily life. So just the act of standing on one leg is amazing.
Great. The next one is make it attractive. So what that means is basically make movement feel a bit more enjoyable. So you actually want to do it. For example, maybe listen to a podcast while you're on a walk, or maybe while you're watching your favorite TV show, or if you're watching the World Cup at the moment, you can try and do a little bit of movement while you're watching that. Maybe walk with a friend. I know sometimes something I do is me and my friends go on a call, but we try and time it. So we try and go for a run while we're on a call. So we want to try and make movement feel less of a punishment and more like something that you actually want to do. So if I ask you this one question, what movement do I not hate? Or what might you enjoy? What would you say? So how could you make something a bit more fun for you and more attractive? There was a app as well that I was using at one point. It was called Pace, and if you're based in London, based on how many steps you get, you can earn points and get money off like a coffee or something. That was good motivation. And you get put in different leagues. Hot girl walk, nice. Cycling to a cake shop, yeah. I like running to a cafe, and then my reward is a nice coffee. And music. Easy. Okay, the next one we've got is make it easy. So start smaller than you think. So, for example, small isn't like pointless. So every movement count. Anything you do is important. And that's how we're able to start those new habits. So even walking for 5 minutes, like we've said, doing things while the kettle boils or when you're in the shower or when you're brushing your teeth, maybe even when you're standing or sitting watching TV, just rolling your shoulders. That's all good. Doing some spinal twists. There's so much benefit with moving your spine and sending like positive signals to your brain. So even, just remember to try and make it as easy as possible. Even if you wake up and you're like, oh, I really can't be bothered to go for a walk today. What can you do that's easy? So what is the smallest version of movement that you've done that would still feel like something?
Whilst people are thinking and putting their answers in the chats, think about the converse of this. Think about those times in your life where you're like, oh, okay, I really need to get fit. I need to exercise. And then you take on the biggest challenge. People just never seem to make it easy for themselves when they think, oh, I need to get a bit fitter. I'll do this little thing. It's always some kind of big transformation process that was sold. Go to the gym, do the high rocks challenge, or go to a CrossFit class. These things are very, very extreme. Just think about that simplicity of how can you make life easy. It's great to see people are just talking about standing up during phone calls. That's perfect.
Yeah, walking, going further each time, just giving yourself that little push is good. And sometimes it's taking off that pressure of I have to walk 10,000 steps a day. Who said? You can even just going out for like a little bit, maybe just walking around your house is enough. Or even if it feels too much to leave the house, what can you do in the house? Ankle rotations, yeah, that's good. So Rachel, as you're not doing the 10,000 steps this week, what's one small, sorry to point you out and put you in, but what's one small thing you could do instead? Bear in mind that it's very hot.
Get it on prescription and keep it for the rest of your life and keep.
Sorry about that. I love that everybody's really taken this to heart. Things like just making sure that you're going to a loo that's slightly further away, so you're getting the extra steps, watching 10-minute yoga videos. That's it. That's all we need to get started.
For sure. Okay, and the last of the 4 is to make it satisfying. So kind of just what that means is to try and like make it feel like a little win. So you're kind of you give your brain an excuse to want to repeat it. Because when we repeat things, it feels rewarding. We get that dopamine hit. And that reward doesn't need to be big. For example, ticking it off a list. Some people love writing a to-do list, so you can that'll be like an easy to-do list, walking to the loo that's further away. Or saying that counts, like just telling yourself and reinforcing that, oh, even if I, just do my ankle rolls, that counts. Or just notice how you feel afterwards. For example, if you come home and you're feeling really stressed today and you take that time to do some stretches, notice how you feel afterwards. And then over time, you kind of train yourself to feel like, okay, every time I feel stressed and I did this, I felt better. And then your mind's like, okay, now I know what to do every time I feel stressed. Maybe talk to a friend about it or a family member about it. And, celebrate that consistency rather than perfection. So celebrate that, oh, I did this today. It doesn't matter if you completed that 10-minute yoga video, but the fact that you put it on and you started it, that's still good in itself. And just noticing how you're feeling. So how could you make movement feel satisfying straight away without wanting to see a long-term result? Yeah, that's great. Paul, consistency is more important than most people think. Being proud of the small wins. Yeah, that's some really good things in the comments. So I think it's important to know yourself. If I don't do the 10,000 steps, then you don't really care, but it's knowing that you enjoy going outside and walking, and that's what you try and focus on. One of the things I always try and remember is to try and focus on the process, not the outcome, and that makes things a lot more doable. So like you guys have said here, those are some really good examples of focusing on the process. Okay, so just a reminder of what those 4 things are. And then Tom will come and do the next slide for you.
Right. Okay. I'm curious. Everybody's got a hobby. Everybody likes to get involved and engaged in something. Does anybody know what the fastest growing martial art in the UK and I think across Europe is?
We've got Tai Chi from Julia. So Paul's got his hand up. Yeah.
Tai Chi, MMA.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is it Tai Chi? Yeah, so
Tai Chi. Oh, yeah, we've got lots of people who are Mai Tai's nice. Yep, Qigong. I'm talking about Taekwondo. Yep. Oh, all really, really good guesses here. So it's close. Tai Chi is indeed growing. It got really, really popular. I've trained in Tai Chi since I was 18 years old. Not the cool thing for an 18-year-old to be doing, but it's incredible. But it's not yet the most popular or the fastest growing. The fastest growing is actually something known as HEMA, historical European martial arts. I don't know if you've seen people dressing up in these outfits and carrying a sword and swinging them around. During lockdown, I went to go and visit a friend of mine who was a fantastic fencer, and he had opened up this amazing club in my hometown of Cardiff, where he had gotten all of these people who were really, really not necessarily active people who maybe shied away from the traditional, do you have to go to the gym? It's really boring. You just pick something up and put it down again. Or sports that maybe have got too high barrier to entry, certain types of athletics, when you go and you're training with people who have been doing it since they were 5 years old. Oh, good to see fellow Welsh people in the chat. Tidy. But there's sorry, I lost my train of thought, distracted by my thoughts of Wales.
Sorry.
But no, bang tidy, nice. But there's such a there's such an intimidated feeling when you go and try a new sport for the first time, and you're training with somebody who was doing it since they were 6 years old, and they're really good. Like things like gymnastics are amazing, but can feel really, really intimidating. And one of the reasons that historical European martial arts has grown is because it's something that people can really connect with using the 4 principles that we've just outlined. So how are people using the make it obvious to go and do something like this? Well, it's in it there every day. So many people, Game of Thrones and The Lord of the Rings and fantasy novels are massive. People love consuming this type of historical media. And so it's in people's everyday that they think about these things. They think about being a knight or a Viking, or trying to be, some kind of great historical warrior of some kind. To make it attractive, well, it aligns with who people want to be. If you grow up always wanting to be, that kind of confident warrior that you think that you can be when you're reading those books as a kid, this kind of sport and activity by getting to be like that is really, really important. Nice pictures of people throwing axes in the
That's a really good way of stress relief. I've also done that smash room as well. It's great.
Yeah, that's incredibly satisfying.
Yeah, for sure.
The next one, make it easy. One of the big things about these clubs is because it's relatively new. Beginners are very welcome. People focus on skills and coordination and basic stepping in a way that doesn't have the same kind of physical demands as going to a gym and thinking, oh my God, the person next to me is squatting 120 kilos. How am I ever going to do that? It's a really, really accessible threshold to entry. And then make it satisfying is that it's quite fun. These people who are really into this world love clashing swords against each other. And this is very niche, right? This is for a certain type of person who likes a certain type of hobby. But just think about your own experiences in this way. Like, is there something that is your niche that you think, oh God, I'd really like to be that person. I'd really like to be the kind of person that climbs trees, or I'd really like to be the kind of person who can sit and meditate, or be somebody who is really, really strong. Find how it relates to your identity and find other people in the world who are doing such a similar thing. Going back to things like Tai Chi is starting to boom at the moment because people are realizing that there's such an it's got such a low barrier to entry. People can engage with it really, really easily. And it is really satisfying how peaceful you feel when you walk out of it. And I guess we'd like to open up to the room. Are there any people who feel that they've got their own version of this, their own version of activity that is quite niche to them, but is actually so, so important for keeping you moving? Yeah. Runners and runners
Yeah.
clubs. It's such a great community.
Paul, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for me, it was when I started yoga, there was a few movements where I thought, crikey, I'm not going to be able to manage those. But luckily, the lady that I became a follower of has a mantra called "Find what feels good," and some of you may have heard of her or know who I mean. And it's basically with me being 60 in 3 years and thinking up here that I can still do things I could do when I was 30. That mantra has put me actually, well, hang on, what feels good for me? What's my version of what she's doing? And that's what she portrays really, and that's what really, really helps me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's so important to yeah, because it isn't just about adopting somebody else's identity. It isn't just, join a sports cult. Right? It's about finding something that's like, oh, how can I take a bit of this and make it me?
Yeah.
And connect with it halfway.
No, for sure. We've got small group personal trainings. I think that's really nice as well to have that sense of community, especially now, like so much stuff has become online. So being able to go out there and have that is great. Okay, so thinking about where is your everyday movement. So it's all well and good like us talking about it, but it's also important for you to make it more like realistic and doable, to have a think about, finding something near you that's realistic. So sometimes gym memberships can be expensive and not everyone wants to or is able to go to the gym. And that's completely fine. And like you said, movement can kind of come about in so many different forms and be built into your ordinary life. And there's a lot of options that could work. So have you guys got any ideas of what would work for you or what you have around the area? So for example, we've got free walking groups in some areas, park runs, maybe like a community gardening, looking out for notice boards around the library, or at your local GP sometimes. Maybe, like some of you have said, dancing in the kitchen, stretching during TV adverts. That's always a good way to do it. So every time there's an ad, you do something small. Walking to the shops, and like chair-based movements. So remember those ankle rolls, shoulder rolls. So just have a moment to reflect on that, and maybe your homework for today is to try and find one small thing in your area that you could join or be part of. So if we look at the best kind of exercise, so blue zone communities have some of the longest disability-free lives in the world, so 7 years longer than the global average, with a fraction of the rates of dementia and cardiovascular disease. And they don't go to the gym. They just live in a way where movement is woven into their day-to-day lives. So for example, in Sardinia, sheep farmers walk over 5 miles up and down the mountain as part of their working day. And in another city, elders sit on the floor mats rather than on the chairs. And all the getting up and down is what keeps them strong. So the best exercise doesn't have to be the hardest one, but it's the one that fits into your day-to-day lives and is aligned with your values and your energy. So we'd like to share the purple paper for this link to this month's webinar, which Tom will put on the chat. And then I'd like you to think about, what's something small that you could do to help build your like tiny movement plan. Maybe you can take this home and reflect on it. So, write down your tiny movement plan not something that's overcomplicated. Remember to make it easy, make it simple, make it satisfying, make it obvious. And then for next month, you're invited to our Overwhelmed by Wellness webinar. So that's on the 22nd of July at 1, which Tom will also put a link in the chat to sign up to that. And then just some key takeaways. And then we've got some support resources. So yeah, just wanted to, hope you guys enjoyed today's webinar. And if you have any questions or any feedback, we would love to hear from you. Wait, sorry, Tom, we can't hear you. It's coming in.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for everybody attending. We really, really appreciate people making the effort to join. And I hope that if you've learned nothing else, it's just make life easier for yourselves. Being a little bit active just can do the world of good. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much again. And we'd love to hear about how, how you're going to take on from this and what you could do, what small movements you could do from here.